Hard sports all plays. Hard sports all plays. Hard sports all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Hard sports all plays. Network. Hard sports all plays. Network. We on top of our game. Hard sports all plays. Hard sports all plays.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us, from all of us here at the ASAP Network.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Real Talk, another edition. Obviously, today we have a couple of people that are taking a absence, but we got Nate the Great with us. How you doing, Nate?
I'm excited. Going from one show to another, from the full count now to Real Talk to bring on really some NBA stuff going on today, especially with all those trades to talk about.
Yeah, definitely seems like it's going to be an NBA takeover tonight on Real Talk with all these trades and everything moving around. We definitely got some talking to do. And then, of course, we got a staple of the show, my boy Kenny here. How you doing tonight, Kenny?
I'm good, man. Crazy action, a lot of trades, a lot of news. Ready to get to it. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's jump right into things. Like I hinted before, it's probably going to be an NBA takeover today. Not much else to talk about, and if there is, the NBA squashed the bang on it. So let's first, before we get into anything else, can we please talk about Draymond Green? Can we start off with that? Draymond Green himself says he is the best defensive player of all time, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the words that came out. Those are the words that came out the man's mouth. Now, right off the bat, I mean, before we actually break down him, how do you feel about any player, whether they are? How do you feel about any player coming out and just saying they are the man at this? They are the best. How do you feel about that? Let's go with you first, Kenny.
I think that if you have to say it, then that's an issue. Like, you should be able. It should be people saying that for you. You shouldn't have to say it for yourself. Even Michael Jordan, he doesn't even refer to himself as the GOAT. He doesn't. As much as people try to put that on him, you never hear out of his mouth him saying that he's the GOAT. So to me. Yeah, you don't have to. You let other people stamp you. So that's the first thing is that you being normally when you're the self-proclaimed something, that's always a you know what I'm saying? That's like a black eye. When you say he's a self-proclaimed, that means that it's not valid. Most of the time, that means you're a fraud. When people say that's the self-proclaimed guy, that means it's like almost like an insult.
You're ignoring all the requirements to get that position.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think he kind of jumped out the window and he might be trolling us for all we know. And click, because this is a total clickbait thing, and if that's what he was going for, it definitely worked.
He got us. He definitely got us. What you think, Nate? I mean, how do you feel about specifically him coming out and like Kenny said, self-proclaiming himself as the greatest defender of all time?
So even though I do agree, Kenny, with what you said, I do like that he had that mindset, if that makes
Okay.
sense. The mindset
It
of
does.
being the greatest. Even though I disagree with him, I don't think he is the best point guard of all time.
Power forward.
Power forward, excuse me.
Defensive, yeah.
I keep having brain farts today. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Okay.
Power forward of all time. I liked that he had the mindset that he had.
That makes sense. That's a good way. That's a good take on it. I mean, me personally, I'm kind of with you, right? Full fledged, Kenny. You don't do that. I mean, if you're that man, you're that man. We'll let you know, and you'll know by other things, box score, stats, players expressing their frustration when you're guarding them. I mean, when you had Kobe Bryant, when you had Michael Jordan, and I'm gonna use those two as a quick example. They put them claws on people, and there was nowhere for them to go. They put the clamps on them, and they were stuck. And you could tell, the frustrations we're seeing on the basketball court with people not being able to score and lashing out instead of using skills to get over it. So when the guy, I mean, even in a neighborhood, you come up and you give yourself some nickname, that nickname ain't respected. No one's gonna remember that nickname. You gave yourself that nickname. When someone else comes up and gives you a nickname, it's typically because you remind them of whatever it was. So for you to come and do it, you're saying it, but it ain't sticking because you're not reminding us of that. You don't have, you didn't earn this nickname. So,
Right.
it's the same thing with this. I don't think you've earned it. I just don't think so. So, I mean, taking it a step further, now that we actually talked about him actually expressing himself in the manner he did, how do you actually feel? I mean, where do you put him? Is Draymond, the best defender of all time? I mean, does he even get sniffed in that category? Does he even get listed there?
No, I think he's if I had to categorize him, he's probably one of the great help defenders of all time. Like in terms of his IQ, in terms of him being in the right place in the right time, taking charges, helping, calling, being that quarterback of the defense, that type of guy, he's definitely one of the greats in terms of that. But in terms of like all on ball primary defender, he's just not that guy. Like he's better when he has to, because think about it. When they was who was getting put on the best score on each team? That was Clay. If you look at it, he probably wasn't even the greatest defender on his own team, because if that was, seriously, because if that's the case, when they put Clay on those guys.
And Durant's number 2.
Yeah, so like you gotta, you have to not, and that's no disrespect to him, but it's that you got to know who you are. And you got to know, what you bring to the game. And what you bring to the game is, he brings to the game great effort, great hustle, great communicator, great helper. But in terms of like the on the ball guy, he's not in that category. And it's a bunch of guys you could talk about before you even get to him. The Ben Wallace's, the Dennis Rodman, you know what I'm saying? You already talked about Jordan and Kobe, LeBron James in his, in his prime. We was, really getting after guys, Dwight Howard, Akeem Olajuwon, the list goes on and on. Like you'll get to a bunch of names before you even get to him. So
not even in this era. He's not even in the era he's playing in. I mean, like you said, you listed 2 without moving teams.
Yeah. So it's just, he's gotta be honest with himself and really say who he is as a player. Like you're not the guy that's going out there and taking the toughest defensive challenge night in and night out. You are the guy that's, when the guy gets beat, you're there to help. You're there to take a charge. You're there to switch.
You're the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're the backline guy that helps the defense. Great team defender. He's a great team defender. There's no question about that. But not a great individual defender. I can't give him that.
I mean, do you agree, Nate, or you think different?
So I can argue and say that 3 to 4 years ago, he was the greatest in the league during those years, but not of all time. There's guys like Dirk, Tim Duncan. I can name a bunch of people that I can definitely see being higher ranked than him.
I mean, I hear you, but I disagree. I mean, at that time, Dwayne Wade was still on the basketball court. LeBron James was doing chase down blocks from behind. You had, I'll tell you, a guy that I think has not lived up to his name, but he definitely is a good defender. Hassan Whiteside was out there slapping blocks. You got Joel Embiid. Devin Booker, I think, is a wonderful defender and a better defender than Draymond Green. Chris Paul, Paul George, Damian Lillard. Like, I can go on and on. Kawhi Leonard is hands down a better all-around defender than this guy. And now I do definitely understand where Kenny's coming from as a help defender. He's great. He's a really good help defender. But I'm going to move back into that category, and I still don't put him up in the tops on that category because of guys like Akeem Olajuwon, because of guys like Dikembe Mutombo, who would come out of nowhere and block a shot and turn around and block the next one from the dude that got the rebound off his block. So there's a lot of different things that you need to take into account, and we got guys like out there that revolutionized the positioning of being a positionless defender. You got guys like Lamar Odom, who, the Lakers were like, yo, this guy's out here, Steve Nash is out here killing us, or whomever these guards are out here killing us. We need somebody with size, length, and speed to be able to just give him some fits. So we're going to put Lamar out here on him. Oh, then that transition to Sean Marion, and that transition to tweener forwards.
Ron Artest.
And I was about to get to Mr. Ron. And now Ron Artest is a better comparison for Draymond Green because I think Ron Artest is, first of all, he's a better defender than Draymond Green. But I think Ron Artest is a all-around basketball player. So it's hard to categorize him as great in a specific thing, but he was great at everything he did collectively. So that's, you know what I mean? So I look at Draymond Green and you fit in perfectly. Like, yeah, you're a great defender, but you're a team defender. One-on-one, you're going to get, the right people are going to tear you apart. But as a team, I want you on my team because when this guy posts up, I know with your IQ, you're coming around at the right moment. You're going to knock this ball, or you're going to create this double team moment where they can't, and it doesn't create a turnover.
Right. And if I get beat, I know that you're going to be there to take a charge.
Or disrupt it. Or make that hard foul.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, bring up his comment. I think it was like 3 comments ago. The one that had Muhammad in it.
Oh,
there we go. Now, this is different. This is a man that whooped on every man he was facing and then said, look, I'm looking at the field and I believe I'm the greatest. And went out.
And he did it after he upset the dude that was considered to be the baddest man on the planet at the time, Sonny Liston. That's when he first started saying that I'm the greatest of all time.
And he was looking at the field of play ahead of him and saying, I don't see nobody. And, and he went out and he proved that time and time and time and time again. And he already had a reasoning to even go that far to take that route and say something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I see his point though. But going back to Draymond, I think the biggest thing is that we have to really try to understand, and it's the different facets to the game, and what he brings to the game is very valuable. But I wanted to talk about him and Ron Artest and the difference between them as defenders. Ron Artest would take on the challenge of a Paul Pierce. He would take on the challenge of a Reggie Miller. He'd take on the challenge of them 2s and 3s. Draymond is guarding 3s and 4s. That's a whole different nutshell. That's a whole different mindset.
Now, Ron
It's
would
got-
guard a 4 if he had to.
No, he would if he had to.
If
But
he
I'm
had
saying, like, he's chasing guys. That's what I'm saying. That's why I talked earlier about Clay. Is that Clay would take on that challenge of the shooter or that 2 guard or that scoring guy that's going to come off screens, that's going to come off ball screens, and he's going to chase him and follow him and be on his hip. Draymond is not doing that. He's when you come off that ball screen, he's the guy that's ready to pick you up after the fact.
Correct. Slide you back
So
into the
there's levels to it, and there's a difference to it. So when you say that you're the greatest, then that means you do it in every facet. And when it comes to defense, that means you taking on all challenges. You taking on anybody from 3 to 5, from 1 to 5. Then that means you got that guy. He's not that guy.
And because it's disrespectful to guys like Rip Hamilton. It's disrespectful to guys like Tony Allen. It's disrespectful to guys like Pat Beverly, who are dedicated and in the trenches and on-ball defender, off-ball defender. They use that IQ to do the things. And I think he was really out of pocket for that. But Draymond's, like you said earlier, clickbait. He's a clickbait animal. He's good at getting out of pocket.
Yeah. And I think that, honestly, I think that was part of his. I think that was in the back of his mind. And let me see if I can stir up the pot a little bit and see what happens. And mission accomplished.
So, moving right along, it was a big day. It was definitely a big day.
Oh yeah.
This was probably
Big
one
day.
of the bigger trade deadline days in the NBA the past couple of years. A lot of movement. There were some small moves. There's some big moves. So let's go over a couple small moves first. The Warriors got rid of a couple of bench players, created some more money, more cap space. The Kings try to make a little bit more room. I think they're going to go full-fledged this year in free agency. One thing I did see, Marquise Chris went to San Antonio. That's a real undercover, low-key move. But I think adding that youth and giving Marquise another chance, especially being a Popovich, he has all the athletic intangibles. He could possibly do something in the future. I think that was a decent move.
Yeah, I think it just again speaks to the youth movement that's going on in San Antonio. Is that it's clear that they really are all in on this youth movement, and they're going to rebuild, going through youth. Because think about it, man, they had a run there for a long time. Now, what's interesting, though, is with that move, what happens to DeMar DeRozan?
I mean, nothing directly with this move, but I know.
But I mean, in terms of the youth movement, like what does the future hold for DeMar DeRozan? That's what I thought about.
Yeah, I would really look at a team, such as OKC or somebody like that with a lot of assets that they can move around to take a stab at going after him.
I think he's going to go probably around free agency.
They're going to buy him out or something?
It could be. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility because that's going to be, you got Aldridge, you got Drummond, so he could definitely be in that. And again, it would speak to them, just being all in on this youth movement and just moving all those vets out of there to give these young guys a chance to build and to grow together. So you're on to something, Nate, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I seen, Sacramento picking up DeLon Wright and moving Corey Joseph over to Detroit. I think that was decent for Detroit because they do get a decent point guard that can handle the ball. And then they got a couple more second-round picks to add to that roster. Maybe stash away in the G League, start building that farm system a little bit.
I do have to laugh at something that the Kings did earlier today. They got in a trade from the Clippers. They got Kabengele, Kabengele. I really don't know how to pronounce his name. Just so they can release him.
Yeah, cap space.
Yeah, they get some cash considerations. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Sacramento is going to it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to actually get a free agent to come out there because that's been one of those places for years that they haven't really been able to attract marquee free agents. But they had a nice young core, between Buddy Hield and between De'Aaron Fox. They got a
Marvin
nice
Bagley.
backcourt. Yeah, Marvin Bagley. So they got a nice young core. So if they can actually get, a big free agent to take their money, a veteran free agent, I think that's what they're missing now. It's just that, veteran. I guess they kind of thought that Harrison Barnes might be that guy, and he's clearly not that guy. So
They needed a big man.
yeah. But although they got a young big that's playing pretty well this year, that actually is taking minutes away from your guy Hassan Whiteside.
I think I know
name
you're
is-
talking about. I forget his
His
name.
name is escaping me. Yeah, but he's playing really well. So they got some young pieces. So it'll be interesting to see if they are actually able to attract a big name guy to come out there.
And De'Aaron Fox is a baller.
Oh yeah.
De'Aaron Fox is
Oh,
a
yeah.
baller.
Oh yeah.
The Kings also picked up Mo Harkless, and they sent Nemanja over to Miami.
Which is a good move.
Definitely for
Miami.
both parts.
Yeah.
I think Miami picking up Nemanja. He's young. He can run up and down with that second unit. He's solid on defense too.
He can space the floor.
Yep.
He can shoot that. You can face up and shoot that three. So that's something that Miami could definitely use. So that was a good move.
Sacramento, of course, more Harkless on the final year of his contract. So
Yeah, that's
more
just
money,
cap
more
space.
money.
Just clearing the deck.
Mm-hmm. JaVale McGee going over to Denver. They needed a backup center. They finally got one. It looks like. What do you think about that, Nate?
He's good. He's a great backup, but I think really his times as a starter are close to over, or if not already. It was a great pickup by Denver. Don't get me wrong, that is a very good solid backup, but I really think his time. He's great off the bench, but I don't think that he should be used as a starting five anymore.
Yeah. That's totally what they brought him in for. They brought him in to spell the Joker, and also as a defensive presence. One thing we do know is that JaVale McGee can block shots, and he's athletic. He can finish above the rim. So he get out on the break and catch lobs, things like pick and roll lobs and stuff like that. So he'll just be somebody that to give them some energy. Somebody that's going to be, another guy in the back line that can help them, on the defensive side. So that was a good look. And Cleveland wasn't going anywhere, so I'm sure he's glad to be back in Denver.
Yeah,
definitely. It's a solid pickup. It's more of a playoff move.
Right.
You might see them on the court, in the fourth quarter together, late in games in the playoffs, depending on who they're playing and who that roster is lining up against. But JaVale McGee is he's a solid defender. He's a great help defender, like we were talking about, great team defender. But he's not going to score a lot of points, but he's going to come off the bench and he's going to do what you need him to do for your team.
Right. Give me some minutes.
Yeah, and we've seen it time after time. I mean, even in LA, he was scoring because they needed him. Down in Cleveland, he was scoring when they needed. So
in the state, he's solid for them too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think JaVale McGee is very, very solid. And to get him for absolutely nothing was great.
Yeah.
Great. Let's talk about this Bulls, Celtics, Washington Wizard trade that went down. So the Bulls picked up Daniel Theis, Troy Brown, Javonte Green. The Wizards got Daniel Gafford and throw in Chandler Hutchinson. And then the Celtics got Mo Wagner and Luke Cornett. Okay. Obviously here, for me, I feel like the Bulls really won on this one. we've been talking about it for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks ourselves, Kenny, that, the Celtics had a log jam down there. And I didn't think Theis was going to be the one to get moved. I said it times and time again. I liked Theis on that court, especially when he got hot. The Celtics were really good with Theis. So I think that this was a big pickup for Chicago, and obviously a money move, or you could say, for Boston.
Yeah, I think they had to do that for the other deal that they made. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I agree with you is that Daniel Theis he was the one guy offensively that can make some plays and that can face up and shoot. He started adding that 3-point shot to his game this year. So I think that he was the one offensive big that they had. So I was a little surprised that they traded him. But from the Chicago side, I think it's a great pickup because he's in a perfect role coming off the bench, and they got that other deal that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But he's in a perfect role coming off the bench because I think that's his best role is coming off the bench, being that big off the bench, giving you some energy, giving you a couple of buckets here and there. As long as you're not counting on him to be a major contributor, this to me is the perfect role for him. So I really like that deal for Chicago. Nate.
We'll talk about this a little while later as well. You brought a comment about that.
Yeah. I definitely think that the Bulls got active, and they got active at the right time. They got very good value out of what they've done so far. Next on the list, another 3-team trade. The Sixers, the Thunders, and Knicks. Sixers get George Hill and Ignas. Thunder get Tony Bradley, Austin Rivers, a couple of second-round picks, and then Knicks get Terry Ferguson and Vincent Poirier. What's your take on that, Nate?
So I don't know how I really feel about this. There were talks about the 76ers trying to go out there and get Kyle Lowry, but George Hill is not Kyle Lowry, but he
Definitely
is a solid addition, another veteran who can play both guard positions and knock down open 3-point shots. So for 76ers side, I like what they're trying to do there. I just thought that move was okay.
No, I get your point. Yeah, I get your point, Nate. I think I think the price was a little too high from the reports that I was reading for Kyle Lowry. I think Toronto was asking for a little bit too much. So I think they got the next best thing, which is, like you said, a solid pro in George Hill. He's playoff proven. He's a guy that's been on a playoff stage and played, solidly in the playoffs. So it's just another vet that they can add, another ball handler and another, playmaker guy that could kind of help them off the bench. And because that is one of the issues that the Sixers had in terms of, that bench has gotten kind of thin. So I will say I was a little surprised that they traded Tony Bradley because he had a nice couple of games for them, over the last week or so. So I was a little surprised that they traded him, but he also, for him, he's going to a great situation with a young team, and he'll get an opportunity to play. So I think it's a good look for him. But I definitely was a little surprised, but I understand why they did it because they could use a little punch off the bench, and a veteran like George Hill would definitely help them out.
Yeah.
I will say one thing though. With Toronto with Kyle Lowry, they're now Toronto's currently sitting right now, I think, at they're 18-1 with him off the bench in the last 19 games. It's up him not playing, him being hurt or something with in the last couple 20-something games that they played. So Toronto is a better team without Kyle Lowry, no doubt. I think he is.
I don't know if he's a better team without him. I think that they just got hot coincidentally at the time that he went down. Toronto was underachieving in the beginning of the season. There's no doubt about it. They're not a bottom 4 team in the East. Period. There's no way you can sit there and explain that. So I think they were very much underachieving. It just coincidentally happened at the time Kyle Lowry went down, which also fluctuated his asking price. You do this pre game one of the regular season, and Kyle Lowry trade market isn't as hot. You do this when they did it, and his trade stock is up.
Yes, but that 20 game stretch that I was talking about. That's during multiple breaks. That's not just during that one period of time.
Yeah. So, but you got to think about this too, is that the teams that you're talking about is not this team of this year. The talent level, over the years was a lot higher than what it is this year. So, like Jay said, they're, really struggling this year. And I think what they're really regretting the most is the fact that Pascal Siakam has not lived up to the contract that they signed him to. He had that one All-Star season, and it seems like since then he's kind of went down. He's kind of, regressed a bit. So I think they're expecting him to take another step forward. And once Kawhi left, he hasn't been the same player. He just has not been the same player. And I think that's a big reason as to what caused them to, really kind of take a step back these last couple of years. So Kyle Lowry is this guy's been a good pro and a solid pro for a long time. Now and he's getting older, so I was a little surprised that they were that the price tag that they were trying to get for him, that they, that's out there. Of course, it's always reports, so you don't know, the true story and what's all true and what's being reported. But it's a lot. He's done a lot in this league, and he's played at a high level for a long time. So, I was hoping that he would be able to get to a situation where he would be with a playoff team. So I was a little disappointed that he didn't get moved today.
Me too. Definitely me too. I thought they could have figured that out. Let's talk about Dallas. I'm glad Dallas did make a move. I felt like they were too quiet to end this trade deadline. But they did go out and get JJ Redick and Nicolo Melli. But they gave up James Johnson, Horace Nwandu, and then a couple picks. My first take on this, anytime Mr. JJ, I'm going to make this in your face, Redick comes to a team, you win. This is JJ Redick. You add a sharpshooter to your squad. You add a solid defender that wants to defend the basketball and is scrappy. So you automatically changed, your front court as far as the way that you guys defend the basketball. Nicolo Melli, Dallas always has big guys that can shoot the basketball. It makes sense for that roster. They need help. Anything helps them at this point. We talked about their stagnant play as far as their offense goes. We talked about the fact that they don't have guys that can create their own shot. And again, JJ's not the best at creating his own shot, but he can get it done when he needs to. And I think with Luka on his side, he's going to have a lot of open threes, which will make it easier for him to create his own shot off the dribble. So I think it's a good move for Dallas. I just wish they would have done more.
I think it's a solid move, but it doesn't really move me too much, to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't, but based on the other moves that other teams made,
Yep.
It's okay, but it's nothing to blow your socks off. But like you said, JJ Redick's a solid pro. Like, you know what he's going to get from him. He gets open looks, he's going to knock them down. He's going to compete on the defensive end. He's not a great defender, but he'll compete on the defensive end. And of course, in this league, you can never have too many shooters. So, another guy that can space the floor to help Luka to operate, it can't be a bad thing. But to me, that says more about Josh Richardson and that mistake that they made with that you have to bring him in. That means that pretty much that means Josh Richardson is basically, his minutes is going to be compromised. That means Tim Hardaway Jr., his minutes could definitely be compromised. So now you're trying to figure out and working another two into the rotation. So it's going to be a challenge. That's a challenge that we call out to figure out. But I will say, No. Again, like I said, you can never have too many shooters. And Josh Richardson is more of a slasher than he is a shooter. So all depending on how they want to play, he may, JJ may wind up being a better fit, playing alongside Lucas. So we'll see how they're able to, integrate him into the lineup.
Nate?
Yeah, I thought this was an okay move. I'm with the rest of y'all. I think that I feel like Dallas should have done more. Denver made a couple of moves. I would have liked to see Dallas to make more than just the one they made. And it's not the one they made is not that big. They did go out and they did get a little bit of defensive help, but it's just not. It's just not what they. It's just not what the best. It helped their team, but it didn't help their team in a long track.
Agreed. Yeah, they definitely could have done more, especially with everybody else. I mean, the West took their guns out and fired them. So
absolutely,
you got to get up with Joneses over there.
But I ain't gonna lie, as a Knicks fan, I'm glad they did not make a great move because I need that draft pick to be a nice, lottery pick. So they need to. That was a nice, okay move to help them not make the playoffs.
Definitely. Numbers. This one was a number for me because when I seen this, at first I'm like, yeah, but Norman Powell going to Portland, but you give up Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. So, what do you think about this one, Kenny?
This one was definitely surprised. I didn't see this one coming. Because Gary Trent played really well while CJ was out. Like he, really showed that he can be a scorer in this league. So when they did that for Powell, I was definitely surprised. But I get why they did it. Because you got a little bit more. He's a little more experienced. He has a little more playoff experience. Of course, he was on that, part of that championship team that year with Toronto. And this year he's kind of really like taken off. Like this dude was averaging almost 20 points a game. So I think they felt like they can to make that three-headed monster in terms of the backcourt where they could rotate those three guys between Dame, CJ, and Norman Powell. Because CJ and Dame, they could both play on and off the ball. So they could kind of interchange the three of them and kind of be like that old Pistons, the old Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, and Vinnie Johnson, that type of situation. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what they were going for. And Hood is coming off an injury, so and you kind of get offload that salary. So I kind of get that. So I think that's what they were going for, and I could see if that's what they were going for. I like the move.
Yeah, it definitely does make it easier to split up minutes. The minutes with all those guards they had to get them 2 into 1. And then Norman is a better defender to me than Gary.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so it does make sense that way. Clear 2 people off the roster, getting 1, clear a little bit of salary. It's not a bad deal. I mean, like I said, you can't go wrong with Norman Powell. I just really, you alluded to yourself, I really thought Gary Trent was having a breakout season. And he was proven, like you said, he is a scorer. He's real scrappy as well. So maybe that does help Toronto in the long run because they needed some more scrappiness to him. What about you?
Yeah, this gives him a chance. Gary Trent gives him a chance to be a starter now because you know what I mean. So this gives him a chance to really get some consistent minutes because now that CJ is back, his minutes was going down anyway. So this gives him a chance to really shine and really get a chance to play 30 plus minutes a night. So we can really see if what he did in that short stretch when CJ was out. We'll see if it carries over.
As for me, I do think with the addition of Norman Powell, I do think that does make a good solid 3 with Damian and CJ, and it does help. It does help with the size defensively from the wing with for Powell, but what they got rid of, what the Blazers got rid of for it. I was going back and forth on it with Gary Trent. I agree with you, Jay, about the Gary Trent. I do think he was having a little bit of a breakout season.
Yeah, he definitely was, man. He definitely was. And I liked him last year in the bubble, too. I think that's when I really started.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I do have to say about this trade, but I'm going to wait till after we talk about Aaron Gordon.
Okay. Let's talk about Rondo and Lou Will. Those two swap jerseys. Nate, what do you think about that first?
I thought that I do like that move from the Clippers. I do think that I do think that does help out that team. The Hawks, on the other hand, I don't know what they're thinking on that side.
You don't think Lou Will is gonna come
Give him
in
a little
and
punch, punch off the bench.
Yeah, maybe, but that was just I was just confused on that side.
What about you, Kenny?
Yeah, we talked about this. I love this deal because I have been saying, we've been talking about it on the show that the Clippers needed a playmaker. They needed another playmaker, excuse me, to, help out Paul George and help out Kawhi. So I think this is a great move for the Clippers. They were talking about they were trying to get him in the offseason as a free agent. So, the fact that they traded for him is not a surprise to me.
Yeah,
I just think, what'd you say, Nate?
I just said I wasn't shocked either.
Yeah. I think it's what they needed, and there's no disrespect to Pat Beverly. He's a great defender and he's a great role player, but he's not a playmaker. He's not a guy that's going to get in the lane and get guys open looks and, penetrate and kick. And that's what Rondo does. Rondo gets guys open shots, whether it's on the fast break or whether it's in the half court. He gets guys open looks. And so I think that's going to make the game a lot easier for Kawhi. It's going to make the game a lot easier for Paul George. They don't have to do as much playmaking. They can focus more on scoring when Rondo's on the floor. So I just think it upgrades their team tremendously. On a not so serious note, Lemon Pepper Lou is back home. Back home in the A, so it's going to be interesting. And I think he does, you know what you're getting from Lou Williams. He's coming off the bench and he's going to get buckets. And, he'll be the guy that's going to spell Trey. He's going to spell Trey Young, come in there and do his thing for 15, 20 minutes and get you 12 to 13 points a night. So he's just going to do what he does. Lou has been who he's been, over these last 10, 11, however many years he's been in the league. He's been the same guy. So I don't think it's going to be any different. He's just going to go to, he gets to go home. He's going to go home. Yeah, go home, go to work, come off the bench, do what go get to it.
Jamal Crawford 2.0.
Absolutely.
And this makes total sense for both squads. Rondo's over there rotting because Atlanta's not doing enough. And Lou Williams isn't fitting with this new look Clippers the same way as he always has. And I think that bringing in Rondo, like you said, gives him that creative ball control, just move that ball around, that offense. And one thing about, a playmaker in the degree of Rondo is there's a lot of guys on that squad that are not scoring the basketball right now that are going to start scoring the basketball because Rondo's on the floor. So it's going to help the team out a lot. It's going to wake some players up that are not doing their thing right now. Because he's gonna make you wake up, or you're gonna get hit in the face with the basketball.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a great move for them, and hopefully this strengthens them to the point where they can stay in that top 3 seed. Because to me, they were slipping, and I think if the Lakers didn't, suffer those 2 injuries, Clippers would definitely be 4 fighting for 5 and 6 range for the rest of the year. So I think this will hopefully strengthen them enough to keep them in that top 3 conversation. another big move, which I think this was out of the blue. I don't know about you guys, but Kenny, what you think about Nikola Vucevic and Aminu going to Chicago, and Orlando getting Wendell Carter, Otto Porter, and 2 first rounders?
Um, I really like the move. I'm gonna be honest. I think this says that the Bulls are really trying to make a playoff push because you put a Vucevic, with Levine and with marketing. That's a nice, that's not no big three on the par of superstar big three, but in terms of young guys and then a veteran guy in terms of that type of combination of a big three, that's not too bad. And
No,
in
for
the
sure.
East, yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the East, like they could really make a run, and they really can, make something happen. So I think it was a good move, and Vucevic is kind of people don't really appreciate how good this guy is. Me being in the Florida area, I get to watch the Magic games, and this guy night in night and night out, you know what you're getting from him. He's gonna score on the post. He's added a 3 ball to his game, so he can face up and score. He can score on the high post, low post. He rebounds. He's a double double machine. Um, and you just not. He's just gonna come to work, and you know what you're gonna get from him every night. So I think you plug him into that Chicago lineup. It gives you a veteran presence and gives you a guy that you can drop it into, drop it in there in the post when you need a bucket, when the perimeter guys is not going, when Levine needs a break, or when Levine is on the bench, you could run the offense through Bucci. And I just think it's a great move for Chicago. Now, don't get me wrong; they paid a price for it, giving up 2 first-round picks. But I think it was the right thing to do because they had been a lottery team for so long. And, at some point you got to make a move to try to push yourself into that contender range or into that player. Otherwise, you just be a lottery team every year. You just keep on having a team full of young guys. So they had to bring a veteran into that mix and somebody that's going to try to help kind of push them to, another level. And I think that's what Vucevic does. So I really like this move. I really like this one for Chicago.
Nate?
And I'm currently looking at this right now. Looking at the fantasy playoff, the fantasy list, and we're Vucevic is actually currently a top 12. He's actually ranked at 12 for the most number of fantasy points scored in the league right now.
Yeah.
He's
a baller.
Absolutely.
He's been crazy. I was shocked that the Orlando Magic pulled off this move. I really like this move coming from Chicago. Tell that they're trying to make a playoff push. Now, in terms of championship talk, they're not going to get it this year. I think maybe in a few years, but not in this year.
But it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Definitely. Them 2 first-round picks. Because what did they get up to get Otto Porter? Didn't they give up a first-rounder for Otto Porter 2 years ago? Or was it just second-rounders?
I'm not for sure. I'll have to look at that. But
I want to say it was a first. So that, to me, that's 3 first-rounders.
I know it was 2 draft picks, but
you know what I mean? But I like Vucevic being in the Chicago Bulls uniform. I really do. None of this matters if you, 1, don't lock up Zine for longer, make sure he's good, and then for 2, next year you gotta sign someone. You have to bring in a free agent and make this Vucevic thing work out. This year you made the move. You probably will hit 8th place, get knocked out in the first round. You did your thing though. You moved on to that second. You moved on to that next level. But next year, this trade doesn't matter if they don't sign a free agent. But I like it today. Today, right now, at this current moment, I like it. Because Wendell Carter Jr. wasn't doing too much over there. Otto Porter didn't pound out at all.
Yeah. You have. I mean, Otto Porter is pretty much. Unfortunately, he's been a bust. There's no way another way to put it. He's a solid role player, but he was not, a number 3 pick. You know what I mean? It was just, a byproduct of that draft for that year. But, you offload, and Wendell Carter's been injured this year, and, he's still young, so we don't know who he is as as an NBA player just yet. He's still growing. And so I think you get rid of two, questionable. You don't know. Well, you already know that, Otto Porter is the guy. We don't know if Wendell Carter's going to be the guy. So you get rid of those two guys, and then if you make the playoffs, then those two picks are just too late first round picks.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't hurt you too bad. But if you make this trade and then you still a non-playoff team, then that's when, and like you said, if you're not able to get that free agent that's going to push you to be into that top 5 in terms of playoff seed, then that's when you say you get that grade, that the trade didn't work out.
Exactly. The next one I'm gonna talk about, because I'm gonna save these other two because they kind of go hand in hand with the conversation. Victor Mr. Oladipo. He finally made it somewhere where I think he's gonna want to play basketball. And he's with Jimmy Buckets. He got himself a scorer now. So the Rockets get Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and another pick swap. I don't know what's up with Houston in these pick swaps. Man.
I have no clue what they're doing.
What is up with them in these? Come on. You didn't get nothing? Nothing?
Yeah, I have no idea what they're doing.
I think they're just trying to blow it up. I mean, that's the only thing I can see that
Houston. They didn't drop Hiroshima.
Right, nuclear weapon.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. This is beyond a blow up.
Yeah, man. I feel bad for my guy John Wall, man. This guy,
John Wall wasn't expecting this.
Oh man, he thought he was coming to. He thought he was coming to Houston and play with James Harden. Then they bring Boogie in. He thought he was gonna have a chance. Yeah, Boogie gone. They trade Harden for pretty much a bag of balls. What do you get back for Harden? A bunch of draft picks?
Marbles. They didn't even get a bunch of draft picks. Remember, their pick swaps. They got like 3 pick swaps and 3 picks.
This makes absolutely no sense from the Rockets standpoint. And for Miami, that's absolutely a great piece to add because you get another scorer, another guy that can create his own shot. And you need these guys to, because everybody's here, especially in the East, they're all.
They got shirts of paper.
Yeah. They all everybody seems to be trying to get offensive guys to be able to go against the Nets. I think that's what Miami did, is to get another guy on the perimeter to be able to deal with the
call. I need them to release the call when the Heat made the call to the Rockets, and I want to see who threatened who and who got the ball. This is ridiculous. This is somebody. There was a felony committed.
Heat Mafia.
Yeah, there's a felony committed somewhere in this trade.
This is Heat Mafia.
This is bad.
I mean, a documentary.
No, seriously. If I'm the NBA, I'm looking at Houston like, yo, what's going on over there? Do we need to step in and strong arm them and get that team sold? Because this is Dolan was doing bad. Dolan was bad for a couple years.
Remember my hot take? They're proving my hot take, Jay.
Man,
they're proving my hot take.
Oh, I don't even know if they want to play basketball.
They're proving my hot take.
I think the entire U.S. just needs to look at Houston when it comes to sports because of what's going on with the Texans.
They do anything else, I'm gonna call the Houston Comets, and we gonna let them play.
I'm telling you,
they do anything else.
The whole city is the center of dysfunction right now.
It really is.
The Titans just need to go
the whole city.
The whole city.
Oh, so let's go to Boston before we drop the major bombs. So the report was in that Boston was making a strong push for Aaron Gordon. And I think that's why we saw that Danny Theis trade.
Mm-hmm.
Reports say everything fell apart when they asked for 2 first-rounders and a Marcus Smart. Did Boston make the right move by keeping Marcus Smart, those first-round picks, and turning it into Evan Fournier?
I don't know. I understand why they didn't make that Aaron Gordon trade because I think that's a lot. I think that's a lot to ask for Aaron Gordon. Um, so I understand why they didn't make that move. But to me, Fournier, I don't know. Um, he's another scorer, but they already got perimeter guys. Like to me, he's another perimeter scorer that they didn't really need. So I didn't really understand that deal. But again, it could be just getting another weapon because you got that four-headed monster, that three-headed monster in Brooklyn, and teams are just trying to in the East trying to get as many playmakers and as many guys that can score the ball as possible to try to keep up. So that's the only thing I could think of is that type of move. You put them with Kemba, you put them with JT, and you put them with Jaylen Brown. That's going to, give you another guy that can space the floor out, another guy that can hit the open three, another guy that can, create his own shot. So that's the only thing that I have to think of is to get another guy because Marcus Smart, as great as he is, great role player, great defender, like down the stretch, the last couple of games, he's had the ball in his hands down the stretch the last couple of games, and teams are like daring him to score. Like they're taking away those other guys. So I think Fournier will be the guy in the fourth quarter to kind of, if they need that extra score to help out Jaylen Brown and JT, that's when he'll come in and they'll use Marcus Smart as a defensive guy and kind of do an offense-defense type of thing.
I mean, anytime you can get a guy that's averaging 20 points a game for nothing, you definitely shoot the balloon down.
Right.
So they made the smartest move they could have made. They brought in a solid player that's ready to contribute to the team right now. It makes them better. No matter how we look at it, it makes them better. And they got rid of nothing. So I applaud Boston. Boston. They always make solid moves that it seems like no other team could make. Like they always make solid moves. They're just like, how do they, you know what I mean? So this was definitely smart for them. It was definitely smart to pull out of the Aaron Gordon sweepstakes, asking for 2 first rounders and Marcus Smart. They weren't so smart. So it was definitely, I like that.
Nice
So what you think, Nate?
I like, as you said, Boston is just a general team that always, occasionally they might make a move that isn't as great, but 90% of the time you'll find Boston making a right move, even if it doesn't mean a step in the right direction, even if that right direction doesn't mean a championship.
Oh yeah, Boston's always stacking up. They'll never be mediocre. They're always putting up stuff for tomorrow. You know what I mean? Their pantry's always full. So that's Boston. But I mean, the winner of the Aaron Gordon sweepstakes, Denver. Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a future first-round pick. Did Orlando get enough? And did Denver win it all?
When I said that I was wanting to talk about one more thing about Norman Powell, and it was this trade that I wanted to cover. I'd rather see Denver. I'd rather have Norman Powell over Aaron Gordon. But I do like this move, and it was an upgrade over what we had before. It was. However, looking at the Magic side, going back to these papers again, it's not as bad as Houston, but I do think it was not great on their side.
Yeah, I think they're blowing it up. I think they're blowing it up and starting all over again too. Yeah.
Orlando?
Yeah. Because I mean, they did all the moves that they made was they brought in young guys and got draft picks.
I love this RJ Hampton though. RJ Hampton and Cole Anthony over there together. Gary Harris is going to find a nice little niche over there in Orlando too. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. Denver made out. Denver picked up Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You know, you
And the
got
timing, too.
a 22, 23, 24 point a game score down in power forward position next to Jokic now. Michael Porter Jr. doesn't have to, you don't have to worry about him playing 4 at all any longer. He gets to go to his natural position. It takes less stress off of Jamal Murray because he's been trying to carry the load when he's not a load carrier. I mean, we just seen him in a hot streak over in the bubble, but that's not him. He can't do that, 82 games a year plus 40 days and 40 nights. It's not going to happen. So giving him somebody else to relieve some of that pressure where Jamal Murray can go off when he's hot and then distribute when he's not is going to really help that team. But Orlando's, I think, trying to compete with OKC for who's best in 2027 is it whatnot. You know what I mean? Because OKC got 17 draft picks.
That's crazy.
17.
That's crazy.
They gonna have to these Corona expanded rosters gonna have to be around for the next 7 years for them to be able to use all these players. You know what I mean? So, I really think that Denver made a strong move. They have a really strong team. And I think that them finishing second and not doing anything, and then this year falling into that mediocre area of the standings, it really woke them up.
Well, you say like a mediocre standings, which true they are, but having a rough start and slowly getting better and better. It's not.
No, when you're in the top 3, when you finish in the top 3 of the West, you don't come out the next year and finish in the bottom half of the playoff.
Yeah, they've been middle of the pack.
Yeah,
I think they didn't realize how much they was going to miss Jeremy Grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this deal really speaks to the fact that that's what I'm saying. To me, this deal speaks to the fact that they did not realize how much they would miss Jeremy Grant.
Correct.
I will, however, say this though. Denver offered him a contract and he turned it down and basically
he did what was best for him.
Yeah, he did what was best for him and just went to Detroit, which was just pretty much the same contract for him.
No, it's about being featured. What he did was what he did by leaving Denver was say, "Hey, I'm gonna go get a bag tomorrow. I'm gonna pass."
And he realized that by going to Detroit and putting up the numbers that he's putting up right now, he puts himself in position now to really get a bag.
Correct.
He was never going to be able to put those type of numbers up in Denver. No. So that's what really, pushed him to take that money from Detroit as opposed to staying in Denver. He was always going to be a role player in Denver. He wasn't going to be able to. You weren't going to be able to see how he's been able to score the ball and his offensive side of the game in Denver.
Even if he would have got hot like this, Nate, while he was in Denver, they would have sat him on the bench and say, "Yo, buddy, you're shooting too much." Because you got Jokic, you got Jamal Murray, you got these guys who have already got the green lights. So, and that's the thing that people don't look at. There's politics in these games. No matter how much we look at it and how much we want a fluent team, we want even in football, there's politics in these games. You got a guy, not to try to flip it, but you got a receiver that, his incentive and a big 40% of his contract is to get 120 catches in a season. Well, you need to throw him the ball. And he knows that. So if he ain't getting the ball, it's going to be a problem. So when you look at that in Denver, you got Jokic, you got Jamal Murray, you got guys that are firing the ball up. You got a guy like Michael Porter Jr., which you've invested a lot in, that you need to have opportunities to do something so he can get up. So there was no room for him, even though they wanted him. There was no room for Jeremiah Grant to grow as a basketball player in Denver. So he made the right move. He really did for himself.
But now, how does Aaron Gordon fit into the situation? Because he's a guy that wants to get shots up. He's a guy that wants to score as well. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how they're able to will come in and how he's going to be able to fit in. Does he come off the bench?
No,
Is he the guy does Michael Porter Jr. continue to be the second unit scorer, or that I think that's the question for Mike Malone and those guys, and how they're going to have to figure out how they're going to integrate him into the lineup.
I think that it won't be as hard I think it won't be as hard as it would have been if they would have kept Jeremiah Grant and then like maybe swap Jeremiah for him, because they know, like you said earlier, how much they've missed that element. So now I think he comes in and he immediately jumps into the starting role. You got Paul Millsap as your come off the bench guy.
Mm-hmm. And that's perfect for him with
exactly.
at this stage
and then
of his
you
career.
put Michael Porter Jr. back at small forward. Then you got Jamal Murray at one, and then Gary Harris is gone, or that's how you have to run this.
Monty Morris, I think, is the other guy.
Yeah, Monty.
Yeah. So he probably plays the one. Yeah.
And then you'll probably start seeing Will Barton a little bit more now too.
Yeah.
So Denver.
Actually, you probably will see Will Barton because he's the one guy that doesn't need his number called. So he'll probably be the that fifth wheel in that starting five. So I can see that.
Yeah. So obviously, for me, Miami won the day. Getting in from nothing is really big. I think Denver really set themselves up to make a strong playoff push, depending on who they get. Yeah, man. OKC and Orlando move towards the future. Chicago and Denver and Philadelphia make some moves to try to make a strong playoff push. I mean, overall, man, I was very excited about today. It was an exciting day. Started off this morning slow, and then boom, 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 boom. It was really good to see.
If I had to pick, four winners for today, I would say Miami, Denver, Chicago, and then maybe the fourth one be Atlanta Hawks.
Mine would be the Bulls, the Heat, the Clippers, and the Blazers.
Yep.
Those would be my four.
Bulls, Heat, Clippers, Blazers, Bulls, Heat. I want to say the Bulls too, but I'm going to have to say Denver over the Bulls.
Okay.
But everything else is right there with you. Only reason I picked Denver over the Bulls, I think Denver's was already in position.
Yeah, they're already in playoff position, so I can.
They were already in a decent position to make a strong run.
Mm-hmm.
But Chicago, I like the fact that they took a high risk, high reward jump. So I'm always good for gambling. So let's see what happens with that. But with that being said, it was going to be a short night tonight. The NBA trade deadline got me a little tired chasing it around, all that stuff. But we will be back Monday, full-fledged, full-staffed, and ready to go. But before we jump up out of here, any final thoughts?
Now the next thing is this buyout market. What's going to happen, with LaMarcus Aldridge? What's going to happen with Andre Drummond? Do the Lakers do something to, add a piece, to kind of hold down the fort until LeBron gets back, until AD gets back? So I think that's the next piece of the puzzle, is this buyout market and what happens there. And, we stay tuned over the weekend and over the next few days. And, next week, maybe Monday, we have something. Maybe Aldridge makes a decision and maybe Drummond makes a decision, and we're able to react to that. So we'll look forward to that. And also SCA tournament, we'll see what happens with that. We'll react to that too. So another great sports weekend, and we'll be back on Monday to talk about it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think something I probably should start doing is give some sort of illusion, not some sort of not clip, but like some sort of leeway into the next whatever the next show is. Or
That'd be
next show is
nice.
for the shows in the ASAP network and the shows that I'm on in the ASAP network. But the next show is tomorrow. Tomorrow at 12. Tomorrow at 12, and one thing that we're going to be talking about is with that summer heat going on. It's not really the COVID. COVID's not as bad as it was last year. Marching band is going to be coming up around close to this fall. Summer band's going to hit. So what does that mean with all that? With it being really really hot outside this summer, what does that mean for the students? Find out. Really.
You do your personal one, the music and what is it called?
Well, it's called Sports Status, which is sports and marching band, which I include.
Perfect.
Marching band in the sports genre,
Perfect.
but I know a lot of people who don't.
And that's at Friday. You said Friday noon.
Yeah, Friday.
Fridays at noon. Perfect. Yeah, tune in. Nate the Great show there. You get a lot of information.
Brandon.
And Brandon. Brandon Herrera, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Other than that, the buyout market. I'm really hoping Boogie goes somewhere soon too.
Yeah, Boogie too. Yeah.
We might see Boogie back in LA.
Could be.
See that? I
Wouldn't
can
be
see that.
surprised.
Back in LA. But other than that, until next time, we'll see you guys on Monday.
All sports are played.